The first thing it tasted was not fear. That came later. First came salt, warm, metallic, clinging to the air like fog that had learned how to bleed. Pennywise paused in the act of becoming, half a clown, half a suggestion of teeth and jointed limbs. He hovered between shapes and frowned, an expression no human had ever truly seen, because humans never survived long enough to notice when he was confused. Salt meant meat. Meat meant fear had already ripened. And yet the fear was wrong. He let the body fall. It hit the unseen floor of the in-between place with a wet sound, the sound of something once alive realizing too late that gravity still applied here. Pennywise crouched, sniffed the air again, and felt irritation coil through him like a parasite. The flesh was seasoned, but not by him. Someone else had learned the recipe. Pennywise licked blood from one finger, tasting deeper this time. Beneath the terror, beneath the despair and the final frantic prayers, there was something else woven through the meat, a slow, patient hunger, not sharp like panic, not sweet like screaming fear. Gestation. He recoiled, dropping the finger as if it had burned him. "No," he whispered, and the word fractured into laughter halfway through. "No, no, no, no." In the vast dark that humans would one day name Todash, something shifted, something listened. Pennywise had always hunted downward. That was the secret no one ever understood. Humans thought he came from below because of sewers and drains and cellars, because children fell and never came back up. But the truth was simpler and older. He hunted down the ladder of terror, from gods to beasts to humans to children, from ideas to instincts to raw meat. Fear flowed downhill, and he followed it, mouth open, appetite endless. He had never needed to look up, until now. The corpse at his feet had not been a child. It had not even been fully human. A drifter between worlds, something half feral, half aware, unlucky enough to scream in the wrong place. Pennywise had scented it days ago and followed, drooling with anticipation. But the scream had been hollow. Fear, yes, but layered with acceptance, with waiting. The meat had been prepared. Pennywise straightened slowly, letting the clown shape slough away. His body elongated, joints popping like knuckles snapped by invisible hands. Eyes opened along his torso, each one rolling, searching, scanning the void for the source of the intrusion. "Come out," he called, voice echoing as bells and sobs and carnival music played backward. "You're standing in my pantry." Silence answered. Then the silence inhaled. It was not a sound, not really. More like pressure reversing itself. The fabric of Todash, already thin and wrong, stretched as if something on the other side pressed its face against it, curious. A woman's voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. "You eat what screams," it said. "I eat what lasts." Pennywise felt something cold settle behind his teeth. Mia did not appear all at once. She never did. First came the sense of enclosure, as if the infinite dark had decided to fold inward. Then came the smell, not rot, not blood, but warmth. The smell of a body doing what bodies were meant to do when left alone long enough. Creating. Her shape suggested womanhood the way Pennywise suggested a clown. As a courtesy, not a truth. Wide hips, heavy breasts, swollen belly. Skin pale and stretched, vein like marble that had learned how to pulse. Her eyes were calm. That was what disturbed him most. "Do you know who I am?" Pennywise asked, baring rows of teeth that no longer bothered to look human. "I have worn gods like coats. I have made planets flinch." Mia tilted her head. The gesture was almost tender. "I know what you are," she said. "You are a mouth." Pennywise laughed, a booming sound that sent cracks racing through the dark like lightning frozen in place. "And you," he replied, circling her, tasting the space around her with his senses. Are a womb that thinks too highly of itself. Her smile came slowly. Yes, she agreed. That is why I am still here. He struck without warning. One moment he was laughter and color and sound. The next he was impact. Teeth like guillotines slammed toward her throat, aiming to tear, to spill, to end whatever illusion of safety she pretended to wear. He hit resistance. Not flesh, pressure, fear bent, space compressed. Pennywise felt his momentum slow, his bite arrested inches from her skin by something unseen and unyielding. He snarled and pushed harder, muscles coiling, reality warping to accommodate his hunger. Mia did not flinch. She placed one hand against his cheek. It was warm. That should not have been possible. You do not understand, she said softly. You take fear at its peak. You gorge on endings. Her fingers dug into his skin, not piercing, not tearing, but holding, as if memorizing him by touch. I take what comes before, she continued. I take the long ache, the waiting, the hope that something will come and make the waiting worth it. Something pulled. Pennywise screamed. The scream was not for pain. He had known pain in forms that shattered civilizations. This was different. This was loss. He felt something being drawn out of him, not flesh, not memory, but potential. The slow burn terror that lived in the spaces between heartbeats. The fear that fermented, deepened, matured over years instead of moments. The kind of fear he had never bothered to harvest. Mia's belly tightened. Pennywise tore himself free with a convulsive wrench of his body, ripping backward through space and sound. He landed hard, skidding across nothing, limbs scrambling to reassert their shape. He looked down. A section of his arm was gone. Not severed, not destroyed, missing, as if it had never belonged to him at all. You stole from me, he hissed. Mia's breathing had quickened. For the first time, there was strain in her voice. Yes, she admitted, and you will never get it back. Something moved beneath her skin, not kicking, not writhing, listening. Pennywise felt it then, clear and undeniable. She was pregnant, again. He retreated, not because he feared her, not yet, but because hunger had shifted into calculation. Pennywise dissolved into mist and shadow, slipping backward through layers of Todash, folding himself thinner and thinner until even she could not follow without tearing something important. As he fled, he laughed. Because laughter was armor, because laughter meant control. But inside that laughter, something had changed. For the first time since the universe had learned how to be afraid, Pennywise felt competition. He emerged elsewhere, in a place where the walls of reality were closer together. A town that existed in several worlds at once, its streets overlapping like misremembered dreams. A place with children. He needed to feed. Badly. He took the shape of a butcher this time. Apron stained, hands steady, smile kind. The first victim barely had time to notice the knife before it was inside him. Pennywise ate greedily. He tore muscle from bone, chewed slowly, savoring the way terror soaked into the fibers. He swallowed lungs and heart and tongue, letting the fear burst across his senses like fireworks. But it was not enough. Between bites, between screams, he felt the pull again. A tug, low and constant, like a child on the other end of a rope. Mia watched him go without chasing. She sank slowly to her knees, one hand braced against the swelling curve of her abdomen. Inside her, something vast shifted, settling, rooting itself deeper. This one would be different. This one would not be born to kill her. This one would not be content to consume and vanish. She smiled, teeth white in the dark. Grow, she whispered. grow on what he leaves behind. In Todash, the space between worlds shuddered. Somewhere far away, something ancient and vast turned its attention, just for a moment, toward the disturbance. And Pennywise, knee-deep in blood and screaming meat, did not notice that the fear he tasted now had begun to change. It was no longer afraid of him. It was afraid of what was coming. Pennywise learned quickly that hunger could bruise. Not starve him, never that, but bruise, the way a god bruises when something refuses to die on schedule. He moved through worlds in tightening spirals, feeding with increasing cruelty, trying to drown out the new sensation curling inside him. The pull. It followed him now. A low pressure behind the eyes. A tug in the gut where no organs truly existed. He could feel when Mia fed, not on meat, not on screams, but on duration. Long illnesses, lingering grief, children who lay awake night after night waiting for footsteps that never came. Those fears no longer ripened the way they used to. They were being diverted. And Pennywise hated waste. He began to butcher differently. He chose victims who would understand what was happening to them. Adults instead of children. Parents, teachers, people whose fear did not spike but spread, soaking into every memory they had ever trusted. He dragged it out. He flayed skin slowly, letting cold air kiss exposed muscle. He forced eyes open so they could watch their own blood pool. He spoke to them as he ate, narrating their deaths in cheerful tones, seasoning the meat with humiliation and disbelief. It helped, a little, but beneath the flavor, beneath the delicious crackle of panic, there was always the same aftertaste now, waiting. He found her again by following the silence, not the absence of sound, but the absence of endings, a place where fear did not resolve into death or escape, but simply lingered, suspended like breath held too long. A hospital, not a single building, but the idea of one, smeared across 3 adjacent realities. Hallways that led nowhere, rooms where machines hummed even when unplugged, beds occupied by bodies that refused to improve or die. Mia sat at the center of it. This time she wore a human face more convincingly, older, softer, the face of a nurse who had seen too much and stopped reacting. Her belly was enormous now, skin stretched thin and luminous, veins branching like blue lightning beneath the surface. Something inside her pressed outward, watching. "You've been busy," Pennywise said, emerging from a wall in a spray of plaster and color. He wore a doctor's coat, red balloon tucked neatly under one arm. "I can smell the patience on you." Mia did not look up from the man she was touching. He lay on a bed between them, ribs rising shallowly, eyes glassy with pain. Cancer had eaten him from the inside for years. His fear was old, worn smooth, threaded with resignation. "Perfect. He's almost ready," Mia said. "Do not rush him." Pennywise felt fury spike. He lunged forward and bit. He did not aim for the man. He sank his teeth into Mia's shoulder. Her scream was real. It was raw and animal and sharp enough to cut. Pennywise tore away a chunk of her flesh and swallowed it whole, savoring the shock, the betrayal, the sudden rupture of control. But even as he chewed, the taste turned wrong in his mouth. Her flesh did not carry fear. It carried purpose. The meat writhed as it went down, resisting digestion, clawing at his insides like a parasite that knew where it had come from. Mia staggered but did not fall. Blood ran freely down her arm, black and thick, splashing onto the white tile. The man on the bed began to scream. Pennywise turned on him instantly, relief surging at the familiar response. He devoured the man's face first, ripping away lips and cheeks and eyelids, forcing the fear to peak before the brain shut down. He ate fast. Too fast. Mia laughed behind him. It was not mocking. It was satisfied. "See," she said, "you still need them to end." Something shifted inside her. The air grew heavy, viscous. Pennywise felt gravity reassert itself in a place that had never needed it before. The hospital walls flexed inward like ribs. "You cannot keep doing this," Pennywise snarled, wiping blood from his chin. "You're borrowing against something you do not understand." Mia cradled her belly with both hands. "I understand it perfectly," she replied. "I understand you." Her skin split, not violently, carefully, as if following a seam that had always been there. Pennywise recoiled as something pressed against the opening from the inside. A limb, not clawed, not smooth, but unfinished. An idea of an arm, wrapped in translucent skin. It pushed, then withdrew, not ready. Pennywise fled again, ripping himself sideways through reality, leaving the hospital collapsing in on itself behind him. Machines sparked and exploded. Walls folded. Patients screamed as the concept of treatment gave way to the certainty of neglect. He needed distance. He needed to think. He folded himself into a deeper layer of Todash, one closer to the foundations. A place where the echoes of creation still lingered, where old rules applied. He crouched there, breathing hard, feeling the stolen piece of himself twist and gnaw inside his essence. "She's making something," he muttered. "Of course she is." But it was not the making that terrified him. It was the method. Fear was not meant to be slow. Fear was a spark, a spike, a scream. That was how the universe had designed it, how predators like him had evolved. What Mia was cultivating was something else. Anticipation, the fear of inevitability. The fear that comes not when something jumps out of the dark, but when the dark never leaves. That fear did not burn out. It accumulated. And Pennywise was beginning to realize that he had been careless with it for eons. He went hunting for knowledge. Not in books, those were for humans, but in remnants, forgotten gods, abandoned watchers, things that had once mattered enough to be named and then discarded. He found one such thing nailed to the edge of a dying star. It called itself a witness, though it had watched nothing for a very long time. Pennywise tore into it without ceremony, peeling back layers of memory instead of flesh, devouring centuries of observation in gulps. He saw Mia's first birth, saw her split open by Mordred. No, by what would become Mordred. Saw the necessity of her death etched into the moment of creation. And he saw something else, a flaw. The witness screamed as Pennywise consumed it entirely, but Pennywise barely noticed. He was focused on the image burned into his mind. Mia could not survive what she carried. Not forever. She was not infinite. She was a vessel, and vessels broke. He returned with a plan, not a battle plan, not brute force. Pennywise had learned that lesson. This would be a starvation. He withdrew. He stopped hunting children entirely. Let nightmares pass unclaimed. Let fears fester without release. He abandoned towns, cities, whole regions, letting terror build and rot instead of harvesting it. Humans suffered, more than they ever had, because fear without an outlet becomes despair, and despair lasts. Mia grew rapidly, too rapidly. Her presence began to distort entire realities now. Pregnant women miscarried at her passing. Hospitals became temples without knowing why. People dreamed of waiting rooms that never opened. She searched for Pennywise. She could not find him. The pull between them weakened, and inside her, something stirred, restless and hungry. "Patience," she whispered, though sweat ran down her face now. Patience. But patience, Pennywise knew, was not infinite either. They met for the final time on a road that had never been finished. Concrete stretched into fog. Streetlights flickered without power. The world around them felt thin, ready to tear. Mia stood in the middle of the road, enormous, barely holding herself together. Cracks spiderwebbed across her skin, glowing faintly from within. Pennywise emerged from the fog without a smile. "You're dying," he said simply. Mia nodded. "Yes. You won't not finish it." Her eyes burned. "I do not need to." Something inside her moved, hard. The road split beneath their feet. Pennywise felt triumph surge. Then the thing inside her spoke. Not with a voice, with certainty. And Pennywise understood, too late, what she had truly been growing. Not a predator, not a god, but a cycle. The road did not end. It opened. Concrete peeled apart like skin drawn back from bone, revealing not earth beneath, but depth. Layer upon layer of dimly lit waiting rooms, corridors, nurseries, basements, hospital wings, and half-finished bedrooms. Every place where something had once been expected and never arrived. Mia screamed. This time it was not pain. It was completion. Her body arched backward as the thing inside her pushed forward with terrible patience. Her skin split wider, not tearing but unfolding, like a door that had always been meant to open this way. Pennywise stepped back, not because he was afraid, because instinct, older than laughter, older than hunger, told him this moment did not belong to him. The child emerged slowly, not dragged into existence by violence, but released. It had no single shape. It passed through forms the way a thought passes through words. Child, shadow, absence, outline. Its face resolved last, and when it did, Pennywise felt something in him recoil so violently it nearly tore him apart. The face was familiar, not because he had seen it before, because everyone had. It was the face of someone you were waiting for, a parent who never came home, a doctor who never returned with results, a God who promised meaning and went silent. The child looked at Mia. She smiled through blood and rupture and exhaustion. "I carried you," she whispered. "Now you carry them." The child touched her. Mia collapsed inward, not consumed, not destroyed, but emptied. Her body folded in on itself like a shed skin, falling apart into dust that did not scatter, but simply stopped being. She was gone. The road trembled. Pennywise found his voice again and laughed, loud, sharp, defiant. "That's it?" he said. "That's what you made? Another mouth?" The child turned, and Pennywise felt something he had never felt before. Recognition. The child did not attack. It waited. That alone was unbearable. Pennywise lunged, his body exploding into its true form, vast, many-limbed, layered with mouths and eyes and colors that no human spectrum could hold. He became the deadlights, the burning core of his being, radiating hunger and madness and ancient triumph. He struck. Fear should have followed. It did not. The child absorbed the assault the way stone absorbs rain. Pennywise felt his power sink into it, slow and heavy, dragged downward by gravity he could not escape. "What are you?" he roared. The child answered without speaking. It showed him. Pennywise saw a child lying awake, night after night, waiting for footsteps that never came. He saw a woman staring at a phone that would never ring. He saw a man sitting in a hospital chair, watching a door that would never open. He saw centuries of waiting, stacked and layered and unresolved. Fear that had no climax. Fear that never became meat. This fear did not spike, it endured, and it was endless. Pennywise tried to pull back, to reclaim what he had poured into the child, but there was no edge to grab onto. His hunger slid away from him, redistributed, repurposed. The child stepped forward. With each step, the space around them changed. The road became a hallway. The hallway became a bedroom. The bedroom became a sewer. Pennywise recognized it instantly, his hunting ground. "You cannot have this," he snarled. This is mine. The child shook its head, not in denial, in correction. It reached into Pennywise, not tearing, not biting, unthreading. The child pulled out his hunger first. Pennywise screamed as the core of his being unraveled. Hunger was not just appetite, it was identity. Without it, his shape began to collapse, colors dulling, mouths closing, laughter stuttering. Then the child pulled out his timing. No more suddenness, no more surprise. Pennywise felt himself slow, his movements lagging behind intention. His strikes landed moments too late. His forms took too long to change. The child was not killing him, it was aging him. You feed on fear, Pennywise gasped. Without it, you starve too. The child paused. Then it did something Pennywise could not understand. It smiled. Fear still existed, but it no longer ended. The child turned away from Pennywise and looked out across the layers of reality. Where it looked, fear did not spike into screams. It settled. It became background noise, a constant hum. People no longer jumped at shadows. They lay awake. They waited. They imagined. Pennywise tried to follow, tried to hunt, but every time he approached a victim, the fear slid away from him and sank deeper, beyond his reach. Meat tasted wrong now, dry, unseasoned. He tore into bodies anyway, ripping flesh, chewing bone, desperate to reclaim even a fraction of what he had been. It did not work. The child returned to him at last. You do not die, it said, not in words, but in truth. You persist. Pennywise felt himself shrinking, collapsing inward, compressed by a gravity that did not crush, but contain. What happens to me? He whispered. The child regarded him with something like pity. You wait. The sewer sealed, not with stone, with time. Pennywise found himself trapped in a small space, a cul-de-sac of reality where nothing happened quickly. No screams echoed, no children wandered close, only the drip of water and the ache of anticipation. He laughed at first, then he stopped, because laughter required release, and release never came. He waited. Above, worlds continued. Children still feared, but now fear was different. It lingered. It grew roots. And somewhere in the quiet spaces between moments, the child Mia had made continued its work, redistributing terror into something no predator could gorge on. A fear that never peaked. A fear that never ended. A fear that outlived monsters. Much later, after time had lost meaning, after Pennywise had forgotten how to change his shape, he heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. He pressed his face to the darkness, hope surging painfully. Hello? He called. The child's voice answered from everywhere. I'll be with you soon. Pennywise smiled and waited.